I'm Veronica Morley, your senior reporter. We're continuing our coverage of the 22nd Congressional District race. This is one of the many races in California that folks are watching, a race that could potentially swing Congress from a Republican to a Democratic majority. It also means another Valley face-off between Republican incumbent David Valadao and Democratic challenger Rudy Salas. I sat down with both candidates and asked them about the issues that you, the voters, care most about. We continue with my conversation with the Democratic challenger Rudy Salas.
Wanting to now run for Congress and try to be at a bigger stage to help out in a bigger way.
Rudy Salas is a Bakersfield native who spent a decade in the state assembly, and now he's setting his sights on Congress. In 2022, Salas lost the seat to Valadao by only 3 percentage points, amounting to less than 4,000 votes, something he attributed to low voter turnout. This time around, he hopes to gain momentum with voters by promising to stand for Central Valley families at the federal level.
You know, it's building on those successes, building on those types of things, those bills and those types of things that actually help make a difference in people's lives. And that's what I want to do in D.C.
When it comes to promoting major industries like agriculture, oil, and energy, Salas points to his work in the assembly as an example of the initiative he plans to take in Congress. Especially with the rising cost of gas, we hear it everywhere, and that seems to be probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, concern for voters in this upcoming election.
Yeah, one thing is obviously voting, like when I voted no on the gas tax, for instance, right? So on the policy side is voting, but on the other side is actually promoting policies that help deliver energy independence from foreign places like Saudi Arabia or OPEC or Venezuela. It's actually developing good paying jobs like we have here in the Central Valley, here in Kern County.
Another big initiative for him is health care.
And I tell people some of these things don't need to be partisan. It's about just fixing problems. So for instance, when I got funding for Valley Fever, you know, it started as legislation and we were able to develop our very own Valley Fever Institute right here in Kern County for the entire state.
And fighting for reproductive rights.
I've always said this is a decision that should be left up to a woman, her doctor, and within her own faith.
While his experience is in the state assembly, Salas tells me he's ready to handle conflict at a higher level, wanting to support U.S. allies, but maintaining a focus on his constituents. The U.S. has supported the war in Ukraine through certain funding towards Ukraine. Do you see there needing to be more of an impact of putting more funding towards what's happening here on U.S. soil versus what's happening in other nations with these conflicts?
So we got to stick with our allies. We can't abandon our allies, but we have to make sure that we're taking care of Central Valley families. We got to make sure that we're growing the economy. Some of those things is looking at the future and some of these jobs kind of moving forward as well.
Salas said in Congress he wants to improve immigration systems, develop more local carbon capture and sequestration, and crack down on criminal consequences.
This is why it's so imperative that I get to Congress to help free up those resources so that we can coordinate between the federal, state, and local level to actually go after criminals, to make sure that we're going at and tackling whether it's a crime ring or anything of that sort.
He also tells me he thinks the federal government needs to prioritize homelessness and get people into housing and mental health services. You know, homelessness is a rising issue nationwide. It's a very big issue in California and one we're seeing here in Kern County. What policies do you think you would want to take, you know, from things you've learned about the state into Congress?
We need to make sure that those resources are actually turning results. So I think we need to bring more accountability into those dollars, into those resources to make sure that we're actually helping people.
And you can watch more of my interview with Rudy Salas on our website, turn23.com. Now, we are just 2 weeks away from Election Day on November 5th. Just a reminder, polls close that Tuesday at 8 p.m. For 23 ABC News, I'm Veronica Morley, your senior reporter.